Hi everyone, we've got a little challenge today where we're going to try the first 5 GCSE Maths higher tier questions from this Edexcel paper, but we're not going to be able to use a calculator. Let's see how we get on. Question number 1, expand and simplify, and we've got 3 brackets, 2y minus 5, and then plus 7y plus 2. So let's expand the first bracket first. 3 times by 2y is 6y. 3 multiplied by this negative 5 is negative 15. 7 times by y is 7y. 7 times by 2 is 14. Let's collect up all of the y's. So we've got 6y there and 7y there. 6y plus 7y would give me 13 lots of y. And then we've got this negative 15 plus 14. Negative 15 plus 14 would be negative 1. So it'd be 13y, take away 1. Part B, factorize fully 6x squared plus 15x. First thing that we need to figure out is what's the highest common factor of 6 and 15? That would be 3. And then what's the highest common factor of x squared and x? That'd be x. So the highest common factor of both of those is 3x. We can pull out 3x. Now we're thinking, what multiplies by 3 to give me 6? It'd be 2. What multiplies by my x to give me x squared? That'd be x. And then to get the 15x, I could do 15x divided by 3x, that'd just be 5. And the way we can check this, 3x times 2x gives us 6x squared. 3x times by 5 would give us 15x, so that's correct. Part C, make g the subject of this formula. So all we need to do is we're trying to get g on its own. So we want g on one side and we want everything else on the other side. So let's see what's happening to this g. The first thing that's happening to it is it's getting times by that 3 and then we're adding 11 to it. So we need to undo these things. We're going to take away 11 from both sides first. So I'm going to take away 11 there and take away 11 there. Now I've got f minus 11 equals 3 lots of g. And then the opposite of times in by 3 is divide by 3. So divide by 3 there and divide by 3 there. I'm going to write this all over 3. So it'd be f minus 11 all over 3 is equal to just g on its own. And you can see I wanted g as a subject and I've got g on one side on its own. Question 2. Karen is organising a party for a charity. She spends £100 on food, 120 on a hall and £80 on a DJ. Let's just figure out how much she's spending in total there. 120 plus 80, 200 plus 100 would be 300. So total costs is equal to 300. Karen sells 54 tickets for the party and each ticket costs £7.50. From this, we could work out the total revenue, how much money is actually coming in. So total revenue would be equal to 54 times by £7.50. So the way that I would approach this, I know that 75 out of 100 is 3 quarters. So 7.5 out of 10 is 3 quarters of 10. I'm going to do 54 times by 10. And then I'm going to find 3 quarters of that. I think that'll be a little bit easier than doing 54 times 750. 54 times 10 is 540. I want to find 3 quarters of this. So 3 quarters of 540. 1 quarter would be half this twice, would be 135. And then I need to do 135 times by 3, which would be 270 plus another 135 would be 405. So it'd be £405. That's the total revenue. From this, we could work out what the profit is. So profit would be my revenue minus my costs. So profit is equal to 405 minus my 300. So she ends up with £105 of profit. Not too bad. Work out the percentage profit Karen makes for the charity. Here we're going to be using our percentage change formula. And that is the change over the original, and then we need to multiply that by 100. Here we've already worked out what the change is. The change was the profit, 105, and the original amount she spent was 300, and then we're going to simplify that, and then we're going to times it by 100. I think the easiest way to do this is if we can get this bottom to 100, and then we just times it by 100. So I've divided by 3 there, I need to divide by 3 there. Let's do 105 divided by 3. So 3 doesn't go into 1, it goes into 10 3 times, and it goes into 15 5 times. So it'd be 35 out of 100, which is the same as 35%. If you worked out a 35% increase on 300, you would get 405, so that bit is correct. So question 3, Andrew invests 4,500 in a savings account for 2 years, and the account pays compound interest at a rate of 3.4% per year. Calculate how much Andrew has in his savings account at the end of the 2 years. For this question, we're going to be using our compound interest formula. All that is my original amount multiplied by my decimal multiplier, and we'll figure out what that is, and we're going to raise that to the amount of repetitions that there are. Here the original amount is 4,500. Then the amount that it's increasing by is 3.4%. So I'm doing 1 plus 3.4% as a decimal, which would be 0.034. So it gives me a multiplier of 1.034 times it by 1.034 squared. So this is the calculation that I need to do. This is the way that I would normally do it with a calculator, but because I don't have a calculator with me, I think the easiest way to do this is if I find 3.4% of 4,500 and then I add it on twice. Let's start off with the first year. We've got year 1 and we need to find 3.4% of 4,500. So we're going to find 1% first. If I divide it by 100, I get 45. And we need 3%, which is times in that by 3, that would be 135. And now we need this 0.4%. So 0.1%, if we use the 1% to help us, that'd be 4.5. And if we want 0.4%, that would be times in this by 4, that'd be 18. If I add up these two numbers together, that'd be the amount that it's increased by after the first year. So 135 plus 18 would be 153. So after the first year, I've got 4,500 plus 153, which is 4,653. So this is the amount after the first year. I'm going to need to repeat this all over again. I'm just going to erase this and then I'll just fill out all of those again. So let's find out what 1% would be. That would be 46.53. And then I need to multiply that by 3. So let's just do that over here. 46.53 times by 3 would be 9, 15, 18, 19, 12, and 13. And I need to put the decimal point over there. So that would be 139.59. Next one I got to do is 0.4%. So 1% is this. 0.1% would be 4.653. And now I need to times that by 4. I'll just use this again. Put my decimal point over there. Just get rid of that. This time I'm timesing by 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 5 is 20, so 21. 4 times 6 is 24. Add 2 is 26. 4 times 4, 16, 18. And then we can put our decimal point over here. So it'd be 18.612. The two numbers that I need to add up are these two. We've got 139.59 and then we've got 18.612. I'll just put an extra 0 just to help us out. That'd be a 2, that'd be carry a 1, 11, 12, decimal point, 9, 17, and 18. 3, 4, 5, and then a 1. So it's increased by £158.20 for the second year. So we're adding this number with this number. 4,653 plus 158.202. Let's just add up those and then we should be able to get our final answer. 4653 plus 158.202. Here is just going to be 202, decimal point, 11, 5, 10, 11 again, 6, 7, 8, and then we got a 4 to start with. So our final answer is 4,811.202, and I just round that to 2 decimal places because it's money. So it's £4811.20. Question 4, solve 5x minus 14 equals 52 minus x. First thing I need to do here is get all my letters onto one side and I want all my numbers on the other side. And I can see I've got more x's on the left hand side, so we're going to move this minus x over there. by adding x there, and we're going to add x there. 5x add x is 6x minus 14 equals 52. X is being multiplied by the 6, and then we're taking away with this 14, so we're going to get rid of this first by adding 14. Add 14 there, add 14 there, so it gives us 6x equals 66. That's very nice. We need to divide by 6 because it's being multiplied by 6, so x is going to be 11. And if you substituted that 11 back into here, it would be equal to each other, so x is 11. Question 5. Chris, Debbie and Errol share some money in the ratio 3 to 4 to 2. Chris, Debbie and Errol share it in the ratio 3 to 4 to 2, and Debbie gets £120. Because we know Debbie gets £120, we can figure out what Chris and Errol get. We need to figure out how much has this 4 been multiplied by to get to 120. 120 divided by 4 is 30. We need to multiply everything by 30. 3 times 30 is 90, and 2 times by 30 is 60. Chris then gives some of his share to Debbie and some of his share to Errol. Chris is putting some of his money there, and he's putting some of his money there. So this number is going to go down, this number is going to go up, and this number is going to go up. The money that Chris, Debbie and Errol each have now is in the ratio 2 to 5 to 3. We know what ratio the money has been shared in, but we don't know what the total amount. But we could work out the total amount by looking at these three numbers. If we add these three numbers together, we would get 9 add 12, 21. 21 add 6 is 27, so 270. The total amount of money that they started out with was 270. And the amount of money that they started out with hasn't changed. It's just changed between them. So we need to share 270. How many parts are there altogether? There's 5 add 3, 8 add 2 is 10. 10 parts equals 270. 1 part is going to equal 27. Now we can work out what they each earn. That'd be 54. That'd be 135, 54, and 81. And if you added up these three numbers, you should get 270. But the question is asking us, how much does Chris give to Errol? So we're looking from Chris to Errol. And you can see Errol has gone from 60 up to 81. So we've added £21. So the answer here would be 21. That's the end of the questions for today. As you can see, you don't really need a calculator for most of the questions in a calculator paper, but it'd be very helpful just to check your answers with it. I recommend you check out the rest of my channel for more walkthroughs and questions, or check out my website if you want to get in touch with me with more questions. I'll see you soon.